Hello everyone, welcome to Egypt in 5 minutes. This is Mohamed again. This time we're gonna talk about something very special in the Egyptian temples. And I think it was very special in Egypt in general. This is because it has something to do with the river Nile. How the ancient Egyptian measured the height of the Nile when the Nile used to flood. We go. When you study the history of Egypt, you will notice that most of the history of Egypt is very much made like a circle around the Nile. The Nile was very much the most important thing that the ancient Egyptian ever had. When they built temples, one of the jobs of the pharaoh is to keep the temple rich. And that's why they had to measure the height of the Nile every year. Now, why is that? This is in that little story I'm going to tell you. One of the jobs of the pharaohs is to give a big piece of land for the temple. And this is because he wanted to keep the temple very rich. And this is because also, whatever the farmers will produce from this land, a big share from what they produce every year should go to the temple. And in ancient Egypt, there was no money to pay the people working the temple. So in general, all the food comes to the temple. All the vegetables and the fruit come to the temple is the way they pay everybody working the temple, is the way to pay everybody painted anything in the temple, is the way to pay even the priests of the temple. And that is why it was very important to measure the height of the Nile. And that is why also we found in the whole temples of Egypt what we call a Nilometer, a way to measure the height of the Nile after the flood. And this is because, believe or not, the ancient Egyptian taxes were not imposed on the farmers on how much they produce, but on how much they should produce. And that is the funny thing about it. If you are new to my channel, please like this video and don't forget to subscribe so you can see everything new in the next time. And that's why whenever they measure the height of the Nile some year and they know that the Nile height of the flood is that high, they expect that much from the farmers. And if it is a little bit higher, they expect more from the farmers. So if you are the farmer and you work in the land that it belongs to the temple, if you are very active and you work very hard, you're gonna keep a lot of vegetables for yourself and then you give the share to the temple. But if you're lazy and you don't work hard, you will be in debt for the temple, and that means the next year you have to give it back one more time. And that explains why in the Temple of Kom Ombo, which we are in now, and that is almost 2,000 years old temple, and in the Temple of Edfu, in the Temple of Karnak, in so many temples in Egypt, the Egyptian built something like this little structure behind me. And the rest of the building is over there. This is the Nilometer. From inside, they made a tunnel. And that tunnel goes under the ground all the way to the Nile, which is not very far from here. And they always write numbers and they put some marks, so when the Nile floods, the water will get in the tunnel all the way to the upper part of the Nilometer, and that's how they measure the Nile every year. So measuring the Nile, measuring the height of it when the Nile floods every year was one of the most important things just to happen in Egypt and in the temples everywhere in the country. And that's why we found what we call the Nilometer. And that is why the Egyptian had to measure the Nile of the height every year. Because again, taxes in ancient Egypt was not about how much you produce, but it's about how much you should produce. If you enjoyed the video, please check out the other videos. You will love it.